Bitcoin is back above 120K and it's only October 2nd. But what happens when sellers are gone? Every dip vanishes into Wall Street balance sheets, and old holders who thought 100K was the top are replaced by institutions with trillions. We've seen this before. Exhausted sellers handing the reins to buyers who don't even see the old price levels. That's when the real moves begin. Today, we'll unpack Uptober's explosive start with Eric Trump, Michael Saylor, and Telegram's Pavel Durov, and ask, how high does Bitcoin run when there's no sellers left? Welcome to No Second Best, the show where conviction meets reality and reality points straight to Bitcoin. I'm your host, Hurley. Now let's get into it. Bitcoin didn't just tiptoe into October, it blasted out of the gate. Just 2 days in, we're already back over $120,000 per coin, less than 2% away from all-time highs and re-entering price discovery. Behind this move is nearly a year of coiled up energy, a battle between OG whales selling and the new wave of institutional allocators. Spot ETFs are back in the green, hoovering up supply. Yesterday alone, ETFs absorbed $675 million in Bitcoin, the third straight day of inflows. JP Morgan even updated their 12-month forecast this morning, saying fair value relative to gold puts Bitcoin at $165,000. Citibank goes even further, with a $181,000 base case in the next 12 months and a bull case of $231K. But this isn't just seasonality. Uptober is just the match. The powder keg has been loading for years. Even mainstream political figures are saying the quiet part out loud. Eric Trump went on Fox Business and didn't just predict $1 million Bitcoin. He described the tidal wave of adoption that's already underway.
So you made headlines recently with a call, Bitcoin surpassing 1 million. Everyone gets giddy and excited about that, but I've seen targets much higher. So the question is, how soon and what exactly will it take to get it there?
Well, listen, I mean, the floodgates are opening, right? For the first time, Schwab is custodying, Bitcoin. Fidelity is custodying Bitcoin. I'll never forget, I signed into a Fidelity account not too long ago. The first thing that pops up is this little icon. Would you like to create a Fidelity digital asset wallet? And I said yes. I literally clicked yes on it, and all of a sudden you could buy Bitcoin on there. You look at what Chase is doing. You look at what all the major banks are doing, right? I mean, all of a sudden you're no longer trying to do, buy Bitcoin using a ledger and using DeFi. You can literally buy it through spot ETFs for the first time, and every bank is custodying it. I mean, we are on the 1 yard line of cryptocurrency, and we've got another whole field to run, as explosive as it's been. So I do think it hits $1 million eventually. I've never been more bullish on anything in my life. And listen, Charles, I was telling everybody to buy it when it was at 40,000, and here we sit at 115,000. Right. I'm more bullish on it today because of the legislation in this country, and because of how widely adopted it's been. And I can tell you, I talk to the biggest companies, the biggest families in the world, and every single one of them is racing to buy Bitcoin.
What's striking here isn't just the price target, it's the framing. Bitcoin is no longer fringe. It's on national television, spoken of as inevitable. And as he mentioned in the full interview, the Trump family didn't just discover Bitcoin as an investment. They lived debanking and censorship firsthand. Just like Telegram's Pavel Durov, who we'll hear from later, they know what it's like when the system shuts its doors. To some, Bitcoin isn't just upside, it's survival. But what about the fear that corporations will crowd out individuals? That as ETFs, banks, and sovereigns pile in, regular Bitcoiners get left behind? Michael Saylor dismantles that idea in one of his clearest answers yet, in his latest epic interview with Bitcoin Magazine and Bitcoin for Corporations.
So the corporations aren't crowding out the individuals. The corporations are making the individuals that believed in Bitcoin insanely wealthy. And now the individuals can decide what do they want to do with that economic power, right? And they'll do whatever. As a practical matter, it seems to me that for our company, if we were to ever get to 5% of the network's going to be at least $1 million a coin. If we were to go beyond it, it's going to 10 million a coin. So when we get to 7% of the network, if we do, and Bitcoin is $10 million a coin, and if BlackRock keeps up with us, that means 85% of the network, right? And you're going to be talking about $200 trillion. So you're going to have $170 trillion that will flow to the individuals. So they're not exactly getting crowded out, right? If anything, what you've got is The corporations are all engines turning the flywheel of the Bitcoin economy. Every single company, every Bitcoin treasury company that capitalizes on Bitcoin is like attaching a motor to the network. And every time that company buys $50 million worth of Bitcoin, they spin that drive shaft one turn. That's one day's natural supply, right? And so the more companies that come on, whether it's BlackRock or whether it's Strategy or whether it's MetaPlanet or whether it's 21 or whether it's BSTR, or, or whether it's similar, whoever it might be, each one of them is firing up a motor. All of the motors are powering up the network. If you're an individual and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage the Bitcoin, and you let all the companies power up the network. If the companies didn't show up and the network was all individuals, Bitcoin would be trading $5,000 a coin.
This is the reality. Corporations don't push you out, they push you up. Every treasury company, every ETF is another motor spinning the flywheel. Without them, Bitcoin stagnates. With them, it explodes higher, faster. Here's the alpha. Corporations are price insensitive. They're not staring at charts waiting for the perfect dip. They buy in dollar terms, 50 million, 500 million, whatever their mandate allows. And in doing so, they ratchet the floor higher for everyone else. Individuals who hold before corporate adoption didn't get crowded out, they captured trillions in upside. That dynamic doesn't change. The more corporations adopt, the harder it becomes for governments to ignore, suppress, and outlaw Bitcoin. Adoption at the highest level is not dilution, it's defense. And every new corporate entity that enters has been front-run by another individual saver. But let's zoom out. Price is one thing. Fundamentals are another. Pavel Durov, founder of Telegram, himself chased across borders for building uncensorable communications, explains why Bitcoin is the ultimate form of money and why it inevitably goes to $1 million.
So if you've been an early supporter of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, you've bought into Bitcoin early on, you kept buying. Maybe you could speak to the reasoning why you kept buying Bitcoin. Do you think Bitcoin will go to $1 million? Do you think it'll keep increasing?
I was a big believer in Bitcoins since more or less the start of it. I got to buy my first few thousand of Bitcoin in 2013, and I didn't care much. I think I bought at the local maximum, something like $700 per Bitcoin, and I just threw a couple of millions there. And a lot of people after Bitcoin later next year went down, somewhere close to 300, 200, started to express their sympathy to me. They say, "Oh, you poor fellow, you made this horrible mistake investing in this new thing, but don't feel bad about it. We still have some respect for you." And my response to them was, I don't care. I'm not going to sell it. I believe in this thing. I think this is the way money should work. Nobody can confiscate your Bitcoin from you. Nobody can censor you for political reasons. This is the ultimate means of exchange. So I have been able to fund my lifestyle, so to say, from my Bitcoin investment. Some people think if I'm able to rent nice locations or fly private, it's because I somehow extract money from Telegram. Like I said, Telegram is a money-losing operation for me personally. Bitcoin is something that allowed me to stay afloat, and I believe it will come to a point when Bitcoin is worth $1 million. Just look at the trends. The governments keep printing money like no tomorrow. Nobody's printing Bitcoin. There's predictable inflation, and then it stops at a certain point. Bitcoin is here to stay. All the fiat currencies remains to be seen.
This is the through line. From Trump to Saylor to Durov, the story is the same. Censorship and control are inevitable in the fiat world. Bitcoin is the escape hatch. No one can freeze it, no one can print more of it, and no one can stop you from using it. The price tells us where Bitcoin is going. Fundamentals tell us why it goes there and why it can't be stopped. That's why $1 million Bitcoin isn't speculation. It's arithmetic. Fiat is infinite. Bitcoin is fixed. And this isn't just abstract. We're already watching corporations, sovereign wealth funds, and family offices quietly accumulate. And Swan Private can help you do just that. The Swan Private team works with over 5,000 clients, building generational Bitcoin wealth with airtight custody, inheritance planning, and concierge service. Learn more at swan.com/no-second-best. And finally, a quick shout out to Mara, the world's largest publicly traded Bitcoin miner, for supporting this show and for helping make Bitcoin the world's most decentralized and secure monetary network. October is just beginning. Bitcoin at 120K isn't a top, it's the spark. The sellers are gone, the motors are running, and institutions are buying with size, not hesitation. The floodgates are open, and the question isn't if Bitcoin rewrites its price history, but how far, how fast, and how violently it leaves the old world behind. But now I'd like to hear from you. Do you see corporate adoption as Bitcoin's greatest strength or its greatest risk? And where do you see this next leg of price discovery taking us? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like this video, share it with your bloodline, and don't forget to subscribe to the Swan Bitcoin channel for more high signal every single day. Thanks for watching, and remember, there is no second best money.